On our talk show, my special guest tonight is Zoeie Kreiner, and she has a nonprofit, Support Over Stigma. I'm going to have her talk to you about what it's all about. And Zoeie, why don't you just give a quick bio on how you got started and involved in your nonprofit?
Sure. Thanks, Kenny, for having me tonight. So I came from a little town in Michigan where I grew up very early learning to take care of our neighbors. I also come from a huge military family. From my grandfathers to my son, 43 people have served or are currently serving in the U.S. military. Wow. Most, all but a couple, came home to become police, fire, EMS. In addition to being a military mom, I have a son who's a policeman and a daughter who's a firefighter. And in 2019, while he was deployed, our son lost 3 people in 4 days to suicide. One was his best friend, one was the kid who'd been his bunkmate in basic and tech school, and one was his favorite staff sergeant. So this truly started as a mama bear, how do I protect my own cub, right?
Yes.
Literally put a sign at the end of my driveway that read cookies for care packages, and had a good old-fashioned bake sale. And one of our neighbors that started coming by to help us was a Vietnam veteran, and he was always the first one there and the last one to leave. And we realized just how lonely he was. And so we found another Vietnam veteran to pair him up with, and that was how our peer-to-peer support program started. And then we had a spouse come to us and say, you know, I love him, but his PTSD is really killing our marriage. And that was how our our spouse and caregiver group started. And so each program we have started out of someone's need. Even our 12-step programs that we run that are veteran and first responder only. And it's just grown and grown. It's phenomenal.
How long have you been doing this?
So we got our start in 2020. And since 2020, in July, we just celebrated 6 years. And in 6 years, we just hit 30,000 people that we've been able to help.
Wow.
In 6 years. Isn't that incredible?
How did you get involved with K9?
So I first met Mike from K9s. Once my son went into the military, I joined a group called Blue Star Mothers. And we were invited to a dedication at the Forgotten Warrior Memorial. And that was how I first met Mike. And he took us under his wing. And as I was starting Support Over Stigma, and really helped me get my feet underneath me, and has been with us every step of the way.
Okay. I mean, you have all these events. I think you said you had like 27 different events or something like that?
27 different programs.
Oh, programs. And it's just not veterans, though.
Correct. So we started with active duty military. My son was active duty. It's what I knew. And then we grew into the peer-to-peer support program for our veterans. And then it was COVID. We received a call. My 88-year-old dad hasn't eaten in 4 days. She was calling to try to get groceries delivered, but they were saying it was going to be 4 hours, and it was killing her to know her dad had to go 4 more hours, and could we just drop off a sandwich or a can of soup? And that's how our Foodie Fridays started. So we take complete meals in a bag to our veterans who either can't drive or have had medical conditions. And then we also include the families, and we have a program, it's called Valor 360, and it's actually kind of cool, right? So here's the person, and it's current military veterans and first responders, because so many veterans come home to become first responders. But if I take this person out and I get them clean and sober, and I put them back in the same toxic situation, what are the chances they're going to stay clean and sober?
They're not.
What are the chances? It's even worse with mental health, right? So we start with suicide prevention or intervention, peer-to-peer support counseling, 12-step programs, spouse and caregiver, warrior kids, food and housing insecurity, help them write resumes, help them find jobs. It goes on and on and on. It really is a 360 approach, because I always joke, they say that a lot of military moms will say we got voluntold. You know,
Right.
the kids volunteered, we got voluntold. People don't realize that whether it's military or first responder, it affects everyone in that household's life. If someone's PTSD is out of whack, it affects their spouse, their children, their work, their family, their neighbors, every single interaction that they have. So even though we may only work with the veteran, first responder, current military, or sometimes we just, like AA and Al-Anon, sometimes we just work with the spouses or the children, but it's the ripple effect
Right.
that's so amazing to watch. We have one mom, she's a single mom, and drove a gun truck in Fallujah in '03. So if you know anything about your, I can't say the word I usually use to describe her, but she's the original OG. She was driving, and there was a road rage incident, and one day she found herself on the side of the road, and in her head, she was in her Humvee, and she couldn't figure out why there were kids in the back seat. And that's when she found us, and so we've worked with her and her kids for a while, and one of the things is when she gets overwhelmed, she never wanted to say something she would regret. And so we literally, sometimes it's that visual, right? So she'll literally go, stop, I need 5 minutes, and she'd point at her watch. I'm going to go to my bedroom, and in 5 minutes I'll come back and we'll finish this conversation, because that'll give her time to kind of collect herself. So it had been working very well. And a year ago when school started, her daughter was a freshman, and she said her daughter came home, and she said, I was the proverbial mom. So how was your day? What classes do you have? Who's in your class? Do you have lunch with your best friend? Is your boyfriend there? Is your locker partner? And the daughter went, stop, I need 20 minutes, and went to her room. And so just the ripple effect of, we're not just teaching her, we're teaching the kids the tools and the strategies to deal with all those things that life sends our direction.
Right.
Right? And one of the things I love to talk about is our name, Support Over Stigma. And we really thought really hard about this when we were starting, is if I come to you and I say, I put on a few pounds, right? If you lived in my neighborhood, you might offer to take a walk with me before and after work, or if your wife might offer to join a gym with me. Or if I come to you and I say, there's more month than there is money, you might say, I'm really great at budgeting and you could help me. Or maybe you're bad at budgeting, but your wife is really good and she could help me, right? Why is it when people say, I'm starting counseling or I'm thinking about seeing a therapist, that the knee-jerk reaction is, what the heck is wrong with you?
Right.
Instead, it should be, that is the strongest, most courageous decision you've ever made. How can I help you? Right? If it's your neighbors, maybe you offer to keep the kids so they don't have to pay a babysitter to go to therapy. Maybe you keep the kids so they can have a date night because their marriage is in trouble and they just need to be able to spend more time together. There's a million ways you can help.
I could see that from you.
Yeah.
Yes. How many people you got working for you?
So that's the funny thing. Support Over Stigma is an organization that is 100% volunteer-led. No one, not even me, and I do this about 75 to 80 hours a week, no one in our organization is paid. We do have a board that consists of myself and 5 other people, and we have about 100 to 150 volunteers at this point that help make this run. So I always joke and say, I'm the face of the organization, but there's all these other people that you don't see that really make it run and make it happen.
That's kind of like what we have over at K9.
Exactly.
You got the one face and then everybody behind the scenes that nobody knows about.
I try to make sure those people are more known and seen, because sometimes people go, oh, look at what Zoe's doing. No. It's all these people behind me that just make me look good.
Exactly. That's what you're doing right now, making me look good. How do people get involved?
So there's a million ways you can help. I know, I remember having a conversation early on with somebody who said, Zoe, I don't have hours and hours to get involved. It's so easy. They say 1 in 4, and I think that statistic is super low, but they say 1 in 4 either needs mental health help, is seeking mental health help, or loves someone who needs mental health help, right? So it can look like a 10-second text message. Hey, how's your morning going? Or let's grab a beer or a pizza or whatever your thing is. It can look like showing up and offering to help a neighbor, maybe who's out doing lawn care and they need something else, right? It can be writing letters to deployed troops. It can be helping us pack care packages or working in our food pantry. I always say, think outside the box. Whatever it is you like to do, let's talk about it. Maybe you're somebody who loves graphic designs. We always have events going on. We could always use somebody to help with that. Or maybe marketing is your expertise. I don't know a nonprofit in the world that doesn't need help with marketing or fundraising, right? So I always say, figure out what you like to do, and we'll figure out a way that it can be of use.
Okay. Now, I know you work with a friend of mine sometimes, Brittany.
I do.
You got you got a big event coming up.
We actually have 2 events coming up. So Brittany Mycore is with the DuPage County Veterans Assistance Commission, and we are working with them on August 25th. There is a resource fair at the county building in DuPage County. Last year we had I think it was just over 200 veterans through, and there's between 75 and 80 organizations last year, and I know there's even more organizations coming this year full of resources for veterans that's coming up. And then on September 16th, I'm part of the DuPage County Veteran Suicide Prevention Coalition, and we are hosting our annual suicide prevention seminar, and I'm very excited about that. Dan Miller, that you all know, is one of our speakers, but our keynote speaker is Dr. Lipoff. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
So he's with an organization called Stella Health, and there's a procedure called the stellate ganglion block. I always have to do this because I always miss a syllable in there somewhere. But it's been around since the 1930s, and anesthesiologists used this. I'm oversimplifying this process, but they've always used this as a form of pain management. And what he realized as he got started was that a lot of veterans and sexual assault victims had very unintended side effects. Not only did they get pain relief, but they actually had lessened PTSD symptoms as well as lessened suicidal ideation. And so he's actually going to be there as one of the speakers as well. I'm very excited. I'll be speaking in conjunction with Katie from the VA, talking about creative community resources. We're going to have somebody there talking about 988 versus 911, when to call who, and several other keynote speakers.
Okay, what's 998?
988.
Oh, what's 988?
988. So we all know when to call 911, right? When somebody's in imminent danger. So 988 is who you can call when someone's in a mental health crisis. And what I tell everybody, sometimes they're scared to call 988 because they are afraid it's automatically going to trigger an ambulance or police car to show up. And that's not usually the case. So at 2 a.m, when your thoughts are racing and you can't slow them down and your mind's playing tricks on you, dial 988. There are professionals on the other end of the line that can provide resources and tools and get you some help without ending up in an emergency room, usually.
So, it's kind of like what the VA has, they have their crisis hotline too.
Yeah, so actually the crisis hotline through the VA is now part of 988. So any of my veterans or current military, when you dial 988, press 1, just like you used to with the crisis line, and it will take you specifically to someone with military or veteran resources.
Let's go back to something. Let's go back to that event that you're going to have with Brittany. Mm-hmm. I heard that you're going to have Ladies' Day too, where they get massage and all that good stuff.
Our self-care Saturdays, we're working on that for October. We also have a motorcycle run coming up. The event that you were talking about for the ladies, we actually have a special group that was started. A friend of mine retired as a full bird colonel, and she's met me for lunch one day, and she said, I'm so frustrated. We go into the VA and everybody looks around you like, where's your spouse? Where's the veteran? Me. I am the veteran. And that's how it got its name. And so many of our female veterans struggle with issues that they don't want to talk about with men in the room. And they don't want to have, some of them, I actually had somebody at our last event tell me she's been out of the military for almost 13 years. and her kids didn't even know she ever served because she never told anybody she was a veteran because of things that had happened to her in the military. And when she found out that if we're in an event space, we don't even allow male busboys or waiters or anybody. It is strictly all female because we want to provide that safe space for them to be able to get the help that they need and they deserve.
They need, yeah. The problem is a lot of women, a lot of military women, they don't like talking. And they hold it in worse than the guys do. And I see it all the time.
Right.
You know, but it's great what you do for these women. I mean, I heard you also help homeless.
We do. So one of our many programs is we help feed, not just feed homeless veterans, but we also help get them off the streets. People aren't aware. There are multiple hotels in the area. There's another organization that gets grant dollars to get them off the streets and put them in a hotel. Sometimes, though, while they're busy trying to find them housing, there's other needs like food or clothing or other things that we're able to partner with them and provide. And what is so amazing is just a couple months ago, we moved into a new space, and our new space has angels singing, has a professional kitchen in it so we can cook for our homeless veterans. We also, 3 days a week, have a hot meal. So if people come in to use our food pantry, they can get a hot meal in a to-go container, just like takeout, and be able to have good, nourishing food.
Where's that located?
That's at our main office in St. Charles. But we also do outreach we've got a couple other micro pantries, other places. And then, of course, our Foodie Fridays, when we do those meals in a bag that I talked about. It's, here's everything you need for buffalo mac and cheese or spaghetti and meatballs or whatever. But then we also have the frozen meals where we take what we've cooked, that day. At the end of the day, we'll package it up and freeze it so that all they have to do is warm it up. Because what we found is a lot of veterans are at a point in their life where they're single. And I don't know about you, but there are lots of nights if I'm the only one home, especially after raising 7 kids, if I'm home by myself, the last thing I want to do is cook for one, right? So if we can get them a nutritional meal that's super easy to prepare, chances are they're going to eat a little healthier. So,
Well, they have to.
Right.
Do you go downtown
We do.
and look for these people?
We actually work with several other organizations, and we have volunteers that work specific areas for us. We've got one that works up in Lake County specifically, one that's specifically in Chicago. But you would be surprised how many homeless there are in the suburbs. You wouldn't, but I think a lot of the viewers might be very surprised. And our thing is, there's a difference between being homeless and being chronically homeless. And we have to find ourselves trying to explain this to people, is if you're homeless due to a specific situation, a lot of times if we give you that hand up, you're willing to take it and get off the street.
Right.
Chronically homeless are our veterans or our civilians even who don't ever want to get off the streets. And so some of the programs that we provide is just because somebody doesn't want off the streets doesn't mean they deserve to die of dehydration when it's as hot out as it's been lately, or to freeze to death in the wintertime. So blankets, tents, the hydration, food items that can be shelf stable that they can eat in their tent, those types of things are super important too.
And you do, you know people that also supply some clothes and tents and everything, and the heaters for these people.
Correct.
Do you take them to the VA? Do you try to get them to the VA to help them?
We do. And I know there are a lot of nonprofits out there who are like, VA is bad. I am not one of those. I think that, and people will tell you their story, gosh, I had this horrible experience. Well, you know what? That was one person. Tell me one company you've ever worked for where there wasn't at least one bad apple in the bunch, right? So instead of avoiding the VA, let's find the better person at the VA that can help you. And we've worked very diligently finding those people within the VA. And if I can't find them, I have a couple people further up the food chain that I can call and say, okay, this person, and this person have all dropped the ball. Find me a person who's not going to drop the ball because here's the situation. And we actually have been able to help so many people that
Good,
way.
because I understand. The VA is understaffed; they're overworked. We're lucky that in most cities, because we have 3 different VAs, and I don't know. I want to say maybe 15, 18 hubs. But I just like to see the VA get a little bit more involved in getting these homeless off the streets and their animals too.
Yes.
Because I see a lot of guys and girls out there with dogs and kittens and, you know.
And we actually have an organization that we work with directly. I'm sure you know Andrea.
Yes.
Andrea Wendland's one of my favorites. And she actually helps provide pet food and has microchipping events and vaccination events to try to make sure that I've lost track of the number of times I've gotten calls where it's, can I surrender my service animal because I can't afford to feed him anymore? And they're sleeping in their car, and they're making sure they feed the service dog, but they're not feeding themselves, right? And so making sure we're taking care of them and their pet, because in so many cases, that's their family. That's all they have. And so if we can take care of the pet and the person, it just makes everybody so much better off.
You know, it's hard for me because, you know, they train us to do something, but they don't train us how to come back to being reality, being normal again. But see, then there's people like you and my organizations, you know, and I know a lot of other nonprofits that just like us.
Right.
And, you know, everybody's trying like crazy to do everything that they possibly can. And you gotta, some of these homeless guys and girls, you gotta force them a little, hey.
Yeah.
But they don't want to. I understand
you and I
it.
were having a little bit of that conversation before we started filming. I look really sweet and nice sitting here, and I am the consummate mama, right? But being the consummate mama, I can also be the consummate mama bear, and sometimes you have to practice that tough love because, you know, so many people out there are in the oh woe is me phase, and they need to be reminded that there's people way worse off than they are. But I've also found, and I don't know if you guys have found this at K9s, I think you have, especially with the way your training program, and that's one of the things I love about Mike's program, is the training program and the way they have to commit. We always talk about, when you're in the military, you're willing to live and die for the mission, right? And then you get out of the military. And there's a reason they call you a veteran and not a civilian. You can't ever be a civilian again.
No.
You go to basic training, they literally reprogram your brain, and there's no way to unprogram it. And so when you say normal, you won't ever be a normal civilian again because it's just not possible. But the thing is, get him back on a mission, and maybe that mission looks like getting a service dog and getting involved with K9s. Maybe it's learning how to do woodworking with Greg at A Call to Shoulders. Maybe it's getting back outdoors doing recreational therapy with Donna at Allen Force, or getting involved with Blue Star Families and Courtney, or whatever the organization is. And I've worked so hard to build such a good, strong network. And Brittany has been a great partner in this. Mike's been a good partner in this. So many of those people I just named, because at the end of the day, I don't care if I help them, you help them, Brittany helps them, this group helps them, this group helps them. Did they get the help that they need, right? We all know the scary statistics, and we all know how wrong and inaccurate and underreported they are about how many veterans are taking their life. A few people talk about the number of active duty that are taking their life.
Yeah, that's on the rise.
It's
on the rise.
Over, according to Military Times, they just did a study. It's up over 27%. We have an aircraft carrier that's in double digits already this year. But nobody talks about the effect on the caregivers, the number of caregivers that are taking their own lives. I'm excited to say Blue Star Families is hosting a phenomenal event at Cantini in October that is a caregiver symposium, because we need to take care of, it's that whole family we need to take care of. And so, again, at the end of the day, I don't care who helps them. Did we get them the help that they need so they're not taking their life? That's what's important.
Well, I hate to do this to you. I got to cut you off.
We're at the end of time.
We're
I told
at the
you
end
we could
of
fill
time.
that time.
I want to thank you personally for everything that you do. You're a fantastic woman. We've done stuff together before, and we will continue to do stuff together. You're just a beautiful person. You got a great heart. Everybody, that's tonight's show. See you in next month, and be safe. Have a good night. Thank you for watching.